Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Money Down Pod. 6 wild card games are in the books, 8 teams left standing, and we are here to talk about all of it right here on the Money Down Pod with my guy, Sean White, your boy, Kayvon Izami. Follow us on Twitter at Money Down Pod. Sean, what a weekend we have to discuss, man. Look, the games, they weren't great. I'll say it, they were not great. We had one game that was pretty good. Other than that, it was pretty much a beatdown across the board, but there's a lot to talk about and eat on right here. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we had two great performances with Mahomes and Allen that they're going to play each other. We'll get to a lot with the preview. I mean, that was some great quarterbacking, but definitely one-sided games. And then we had the close one with the Raiders and the Bengals. That was pretty good
Yeah.
as well. But
I guess
obviously,
2 games. I forgot
yeah.
about that. That Raiders game feels eternity ago now.
Oh yeah, the way the weekend moved, it was crazy. But I mean,
Yeah.
the biggest game obviously was that Cowboys Niners game. I think that got everybody's juices flowing. It was probably the most watched game of all of them, and we got a lot to say about it. So let's get started on that one.
Let's get right into it, man, because you're right. And also to what you just said, the preview for this week is going to be really good because, like we said, Sean, I mean, we pretty much predicted this. Like me and you, I think you actually got every team right, didn't
No,
you?
I missed. I had the Cards beating the Rams. That was
Yeah.
the only one I had.
Okay, yeah, and the only one I missed was I had the Pats beating the Bills. So we both got one wrong. We the rest we got right. But we talked about this last week, bro. We said the next week's game could turn out to be amazing if the matchups go the way we thought. And for the most part, it did. So for that preview coming up later in the week, it's going to be gold. So I really can't wait for that. But let's get into it, man. Look, this was the most talked about playoff game that I can remember in a long, long time. And it's because we had the Dallas Cowboys and all of their expectations and their hype and everything that comes with them. And then we had the 49ers, a team that is just bland, a team that just plays physical football and somehow finds a way to win games, even when their quarterback does almost everything he can to help them lose that game at times. I want to start with you. There's 3 points, main points that we want to hit on here, obviously. One is Dak Prescott, one is Mike McCarthy, and then one is someone that not many people are going to talk about, and that is Trevon Diggs. Let's start with where you want to go. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So first off, you can hear some wind and some heat going on in the background. We're having some weather up here in Maine, so that's what's going on in the back for us.
Snowstorm?
Yeah, we got some big time wind, and we're supposed to get some snow tomorrow, but the wind is hitting hard. So if you hear some in the background, it's actually the wind hitting my house. So, so it's big time here. It's
Life,
cold.
bro.
Yeah, but no. So sorry to stop the momentum, but yeah, let's get in let's get right into it. I want to talk about Dak first because
Yes.
I think we discussed it ad nauseum. He was the second most under pressure quarterback this weekend.
Yes.
Stafford obviously went out and got his win. I think we agreed he was under the most pressure.
Yeah.
But Dak was under just as much with that contract, and Dak did not deliver, man.
No.
Dak looked bad for the majority of this game. And really, if it wasn't for a bad Jimmy G pick, Dak's probably the one getting destroyed this whole time for a blowout loss. He missed a lot of makeable throws that you got to make with the receiver core you have. He looked a little skittish back there in the pocket. He was under pressure, and he just couldn't deliver the ball accurately most of the game. That's a problem moving forward. I believe I've said it before on here, and I believe you can go back and look at it. I say Kirk Cousins is the medium, the measuring stick guy, right down the middle. If you look at all NFL quarterbacks, he's not going to win you games, but he's not going to lose you a ton either. He's just the middle guy. And I've said with the way the pocket movement's coming and the way athleticism the quarterbacks are, I believe Dak is going to be that Kirk Cousins type player in the next 2 years or so. And he kind of started showing it right there. He's going to need a lot to go right around him to be able to win big time playoff games. I don't think he's going to be able to carry you to a Super Bowl. That's just not the quarterback he is, and they're paying him a lot of money to do that. We saw a lot of issues he had there, and I don't know how much you want to talk. I feel like we should probably break it down differently. the whole game was a problem, but that last play is going to fall on a lot of people, and we'll just talk about the last play individually. But the fact that they even had to come down to that last play with the talented roster they have, with the way that they are constructed, that's an indictment on Dak himself, and he's going to have to play much better in the future to justify that contract that they gave him.
And let's be honest here, man. You're spot on. If it wasn't for Jimmy G throwing some just not just throwing that pick, also just making dumb moves. The fact that Jimmy G wasn't aware, wasn't letting Trent Williams line up in time for that. Like Jimmy G made so many mistakes where this game really should have been a blowout. I mean, if it wasn't for it was 21-3 or it was whatever, 23-7 going into the fourth quarter, and then Jimmy G collapsed. It should have been a blowout. But the fact of the matter is this, Sean. There's three quarterbacks that played this weekend that make $40 million a year. You got Josh Allen, you got Patrick Mahomes, and you have Dak Prescott. Two of them threw for 5 touchdowns and put on an absolute show, a firework of a show against two very respectable defenses. The Steelers' offense is abysmal. Their defense is respectable. The Patriots, we all know about their defense. Dak Prescott's the third one. And he played against probably, look, the 49ers defense is good, but you could probably say that's the worst defense out of all three of those. I mean, they're playing really well right now, but you could say, I would say they're probably better than the Steelers right now, but you could say that they're the worst defense out of all three of those. And Dak just crapped the bed. The fact of the matter is Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy are 6-9 outside of the NFC East. They're 6-9. This is Dak Prescott's career, bro. I don't like to come on here and crap on players and stuff like this, but if anybody has listened to me and Sean since the start of this show, we have told you that Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He is sure as hell not a top 10 quarterback. I don't even think he's a top 12. I think he's a top 15 quarterback. I would give you top 12, though, if you wanted to argue that. I would give you that. But some of these people putting him at top 10, top 8, it's laughable. It's a joke. You can't do that. And when you have a roster of CeeDee Lamb, of Amari Cooper, of Cedric Wilson coming out of nowhere as the speedster, of Dalton Schultz, of a good offensive line, 2 running backs that could start in the NFL, 2 running backs that could start in the NFL, and you put up a performance like that, it's just, and this is my whole thing with Dak, and this is why I wanted me and you to, this is why it's perfect that we do this show together. For all those people out there, and it's not so much the fans, man, because, like, a lot of people rip on Cowboys fans, but I'm the same way. Like, I think my Falcons are going to win every game, even though I know they're not going to, but that's just how fans are. This is more for the analyst out there that pumped this type of hope into everyone that the Cowboys actually could go to the Super Bowl. When we were saying the whole time, Dak Prescott is simply not good enough to do that. He's not. And he showed it on Sunday why we've been saying that from day one. He is not a good quarterback enough. He's a good one. He's not elite. Unless that defense is perfect, he's not going to be able to take you to the Super Bowl. And then, I mean, they can't, we shouldn't even be talking about the Super Bowl. We should be talking about the NFC Championship game. It's the second round. Like, he can't even get you there right now. And that's the issue. And the biggest thing, Sean, that roster, bro, I don't think Amari, did you see Amari Cooper's press conference? They can't bring Amari Cooper and Lawrence back. One of those guys are going to have to go unless both of them are willing to take pay cuts. Like, that's not happening. They're going to have to make some moves here. This was the year where they were supposed to win it all, or at least go on a run, and they couldn't even beat a team that it took week 18 for them to get into the playoffs. And they went into their own building and knocked them off. It's an atrocious performance by Dak Prescott.
Yeah, you want to talk about defenses?
Yeah.
They needed Bosa and Warner to both go down to really be able to move the ball. If we're being honest, they couldn't move it at all when both were out there. And when Bosa went down, obviously he started to get a little less pressure on him. But then Warner went down, and he still needed a lot of time to be able to move the ball after that. It was a horrible performance. It's what it was. He's not a type that can carry you. That's just what it comes down to. And you're right. I don't know who they're going to be able to bring back out of this group because they have a huge payroll. I know people are talking about Zeke. Zeke still has a lot of money left as well.
Yeah.
that you can't just get rid of right now. Lawrence and Cooper are the ones that you have to move off of, but do you really trust moving off of Cooper? Can you re-sign Gallup and replace him like that? But he's coming off the ACL. He's probably gone. You're looking at Randy Gregory, who I know had a bunch of the pre-snap penalties that kind of cost him and the hold at the end.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's be honest. These penalties kind of fall back on coaching at some point.
do.
They're the most penalized team in the league. And that's where Mike McCarthy's going to come in.
Yeah, good transition.
Yeah. The thing about Dak is he's going to be average till the day is long. But if you're going to have an average quarterback, you got to have some elite level coaching to get that average quarterback and get your roster elevated. And let's just face it, man, Mike McCarthy's not that guy. We've kind of been critical of McCarthy all year. I've been critical of him since a few years after Rodgers, if we're being honest, because I felt like Rodgers was carrying that guy, man. I know you got to watch it first and foremost, and my mom's a Packers fan, to just put that out there, so I watch a lot of their games. I got to see them go up against the Falcons in several playoff matchups. And, man, I know the defense gave up a lot, but that's a lot of Rodgers carrying that team, man.
Yes.
And they were putting up a solid 30-point performances on those Falcons teams, but they're losing by like 13, 14, 15 points. And that comes back on McCarthy as well, not being able to hire an efficient defensive coordinator, not knowing that we need to maybe establish some running game as well to go with Rodgers and dominate the ball better. McCarthy kind of has this thing. He just does nothing on the sideline, really.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a glorified timeout caller over there. And I mean, to let that last play go, I know Kellen Moore's the one that called it, and Kellen's getting all this hype, and that honestly would slow me down a little bit on the Kellen Moore.
Yes, it would.
That's a horrible play call. And then McCarthy greenlit it. Dak went along with it. That play call was a failure on all fronts. Everyone knows you got to have anywhere from 17 to 18 seconds to get a play call like that off. They did the running. Then Dak didn't know the rule, giving it to the ref. McCarthy, if you're McCarthy before that, the 49ers had called a timeout before that. If you're McCarthy and you are going to run this, McCarthy or Moore, and mostly McCarthy because you're the head coach, you've got to be in Dak's ear. Hey, when we slide right here, we got to pop up, give the ball to the official. The ball's got to go to the official. Let him spot it. We got to spike this as quick as possible. None of that happened. It was just and then after the game, they like to blame the refs on that.
Oh,
I mean, you lost the game the whole time. The game was over when Dak couldn't play well throughout the game and your team came out flat, that you obviously didn't motivate them. And then you want to talk about the officials not letting you get one playoff that might not even work. I mean, it was a failure on all fronts, but head coach and quarterback deserve to take a ton of the heat on this one. And McCarthy's not the guy either. I'm surprised that Jerry's letting him go. I had a lot of Cowboys fans that I know texting me saying they wanted McCarthy fired. And after that play call, honestly, I'm surprised McCarthy got off the field, to be honest. That was just awful, in my opinion.
You're spot on, Sean. So well said. Listen, McCarthy is the definition of someone that's riding on a mystical, like a mirage. Like he is the definition that's riding on a coach that is an overachiever when really he's an underachiever for everything that he's had. Guys, he's had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and he went to one Super Bowl. People like to talk about that he won a Super Bowl. Why don't we talk about that the man only went to one? How do you only go to one Super Bowl when you have maybe two of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time? I mean, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
Both have 3 MVPs.
Yeah, and you went to one Super Bowl. Not that you didn't just win one. You went to one single Super Bowl. It's not that he is an overachiever. It's an underachiever. He is underachieved with everything. Now he comes into this Cowboys situation, and from the start, it's been a disaster. First of all, it should have been a fireable offense that he hired Mike Nolan as his defensive coordinator from the start. That right there was, then he had to have Dan Quinn come in and save his ass by putting one of the best defensive coordinator positions that we've seen on this season. And then he just messes everything up. Look, Kellen Moore, like you're right, deserves a ton of heat. And I would have a lot of questions. Like if I was the Broncos and all these teams interviewing, I would want to know what made him think to call that play. But 2 things that McCarthy's in trouble with here. First of all, he should have never let it go through. He gets autonomy over every play to say yes or no. He let it go through. Second was the point that you made, which is so smart. And it's this one. the fact that he didn't, and no one can say, how do you know he didn't tell Dak? Because if he told Dak, Dak wouldn't have just gave it to the center. I've never in my life seen a center try and set a ball. The fact that the head coach did not tell his quarterback, this will be the last play of our season if you don't get up and pull Larry Fitzgerald and go give the ref the ball immediately. Like, the fact that he didn't tell his quarterback that is mind-blowing to me, man. It means that he clearly does not understand just what's going on. He doesn't understand the moment. He doesn't understand what's going on. The moment's too big for him. He's just not a good football coach, man. He's really, it's the football landscape has just moved past him, and he's just not the guy that a lot of people think he is. He's riding on everything that Rodgers has done for him, not what he has done for the Packers. The man went to one Super Bowl in all of those years, while Matt LaFleur's come in there and gone to 3 NFC championship games in 3 years. 3 NFC championship games in 3 years. Now, I get it. He hasn't won those NFC championships, but he's been to 3. He's hosted all 3. He's gone 13-3. Like, he has come in and clearly made the Packers better than what Mike McCarthy was. It's just, in all fronts, man, if I was a Cowboys fan, I would be really angry right now that they're not letting him go. Because the difference between Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers is that Aaron Rodgers was good enough to still take them to NFC title games, even with Mike McCarthy's ineptitude. Like, he was still able to take them because he was that good. Dak's not that good. You need a Sean Payton. You need a Bill Belichick. I'm not saying that Bill Belichick's going to, but you need that type of coach to take Dak to the Super Bowl. It's just that simple. When you have an average QB, you need a coach that can uplift you. We all know that's what football is. Matt Ryan, to me, is above average, but a lot of people would say he's on that Kirk Cousins line. He gets Kyle Shanahan. Look what happens. He wins an MVP and he goes to a Super Bowl. It can happen when you have a talented roster and a coach that's smart enough. Look at the 49ers, for goodness sakes. Jimmy G, Kyle Shanahan. They're going nowhere because you have an average coach and an average QB. Until you uplift one of them, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, too, I don't know how they haven't realized that Dak doesn't win games without a 100-yard rusher. And that's the thing on Dak as well that I didn't bring up in the first part. But as a coach, you kind of got to realize that as well. I mean, the stats are out there for the public to consume. You've got to be able to recognize that your quarterback needs a run game behind him as well. And we saw that in Green Bay a lot. So I know everyone's like, well, McCarthy doesn't do anything with the offense. McCarthy definitely listens in on some of this game plan stuff. And he definitely had a little bit of input on more scheme coming into it, or else he wouldn't have kept Moore on like that. I know Jerry loves Kellen Moore, but McCarthy definitely had a say in when the offense was installed. And honestly, the way the Cowboys plays reminds me a little bit of those Rodgers teams that Rodgers was having to carry. They don't run the ball as much as they should, even though they have backs for it, and they're constantly in spread. And it puts so much pressure on the quarterback that unless you do have an Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Josh Allen type that can carry you over that, it really does put Dak at a disadvantage there. So Dak deals with a double whammy where he's not quite talented enough to carry a team, and then his coach doesn't put him in the best position, and that's always a recipe for failure. Yes. That's what we're dealing with the Cowboys right now, and I don't think it's getting any better because Stephen Jones basically already came out and said McCarthy's safe. You got to look at that. He hired Mike Nolan the first time. He got lucky that Dan Quinn was out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some solid defensive names out there, but it's looking like Dan Quinn's getting that Broncos job, which we'll talk about more as the offseason rolls around. But it looks like that Broncos job is his. I don't know about Kellen, but then you got to worry about McCarthy making a defensive hire. I know Fangio and Zimmer's out there. But is Zimmer really going to want to come back to the Cowboys after being there?
Does he really want to work under McCarthy?
Yeah. That's the case. And then Fangio, I mean, we have all the Harbaugh rumors out there. Fangio was always Jim Harbaugh's defensive coordinator. They might be a package deal wherever Jim goes. If he goes to the Raiders, Fangio might be right there with him. It's going to it's going to be a weird situation to see moving forward. And I think Vegas might. I don't know when they'll put the lines out for it, but I wouldn't be shocked if McCarthy's like got the first or second head coach fired off odds pretty high up there, because I
Yeah.
can see Jerry making a Jurassic move, especially if Kellen Moore's still on the team. That if they start underachieving next year, because it's possible, McCarthy will be the first one to go with all the fan hate, because that's just what happens in the league. And then we wanted to move on to Diggs, so I'm going to
Yeah.
segue it into this. That's another person you got to watch for next year to not have as good of a year as he did
Oh
this
no.
year, because this year's year was all based on INTs, and we've talked about it. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Terrell being left off was kind of a disgrace. On All Pro and Pro Bowl, I understand Pro Bowl more because it's fan voting, so
Yeah.
you got a lot of Cowboy fans out there. But the fact that All Pro Diggs was just there so high, he's one of the most torchable players in the league, man. He gives up deep passes, yards after the catch. I mean, if they catch a under on him, he almost acts like he don't even want to be there, man. He don't want to go and hit that guy. And
Not
then
at
he's
all.
going to give up the overs every time. If he don't jump the route and get a pick, he's almost useless in coverage, and that's scary to say for someone that's an all-pro corner. It was bad to watch. And INTs are something that go up and down a lot in the
Yeah.
NFL. You never get the same amount you did the year before. Even the best pick artists like Sherman, he never did that, but Sherman always locked down his side. I don't know if Diggs is going to be able to lock down his side next year, and I don't know if he's going to pull off 11 INTs again. He could easily be a bottom tier corner next year, and that's something to watch for moving forward.
Without a doubt, you said it so well. I've talked about this so much, it annoys me. Look, Diggs is a talented player, but he's not an All-Pro, and he's going to prove that next year. I mean, it's going to be. I feel fully confident by saying I would bet a lot of money that Diggs is not an All-Pro next year. He won't be, because, like you said, regression comes in all forms. Half of his picks are tip balls that are bounced up in the air. That changes every single year. And if he's getting beat left and right and the interceptions aren't coming, what does he have to say for him? He's going to have nothing. He's going to dip so much. The defense might even get worse based on some of the salary issues that they have, which won't help him out either. And just going back to that game, bro, Ayuk is a good football player. I mean, he's a good receiver. He's not a top 10 receiver in the league. I mean, he's a good receiver. He's not a top receiver in the league. He made Diggs look like a fool on a couple routes, bro. I mean, he broke Diggs. I mean, Diggs was running in circles. He was lost. Ayuk was torching him out there. If it wasn't for Jimmy G overthrowing him a couple times, he would have been to the house a couple of times. Like, I understand the hype with the interceptions and all that stuff, but at this point, if people don't realize that Diggs is really bad in coverage, he's also bad at tackling too, or not really up to going and tackling, then they're just lying to themselves, and they're just one of those, delusional fans that don't want to see the truth. It's absurd. I mean, Diggs allowed more yards in this game, in this playoff game, than AJ Terrell allowed through 8 games this season. Like, he allowed more yards in one playoff game than Terrell allowed throughout 8 games this season. Like, it's just absurd that people actually put Diggs above him. I'm not going to get into all that now, but the just people need to watch heavily, because there's going to be a falling off like no other next year in Trevon Diggs, and it's not even going to be close. I mean, it's Stephon Diggs was watching that game, and he was like, "Bro, I would smoke my brother right now. Like, it's like, this is not good play." It was ridiculous. And then one other thing about McCarthy that I wanted to add on that
Oh,
you
perfect.
said,
Yeah.
if, like, you just talked about Jerry, bro, and how he, bro, if Jerry starts to get whiff, I don't think Kellen Moore is going to get hired, but if he starts to get whiff that both Quinn and Moore are going to get hired, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a panic move and throws money at Kellen to stay and fires McCarthy. Like, I don't know if Jerry would be willing to lose both of those guys and have McCarthy all by himself on that staff, having to bring in 2 other people. That, if I was a Cowboys fan, that would be my worst nightmare, bro. If that happening, that would suck.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, at least Zimmer and Fangio is out there on the defensive side. Who's McCarthy going to bring in to be OC? Is it going to be him? Because I would not want that.
Oh God,
He already can't handle the game management when that's all he does. I mean, I don't need him calling plays and trying to handle the game management. That's pretty
no.
scary. And I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure Kellen Moore's like the quarterback coach and OC,
he
so
is.
he'd have to bring in multiple coaches on the offensive side. I mean, who really does McCarthy have that is all that great? But that's another thing. Going back to his time with Rodgers, his assistant coaches were never that like huge. Like I said,
No,
it's actually more so amazing on what Rodgers did all those years with
yeah,
McCarthy holding him back in a way.
agreed.
That's just how it is on that. I know you have a good point that you want to get to on these other games right quick.
Yeah,
So we should just transition. Let's keep rapid firing because
yeah.
I like this.
Let's keep on rolling. But those are things. And listen, Cowboys fans out there, if you disagree with us, we want to know why. Like we will take it on. We want to understand why, because frankly, right now, I don't understand how any Cowboy fan out there could disagree with anything we're saying. Like if I would love to hear why you think Dak's better than a top 12 quarterback. I would love to hear it. If you somehow, that might be an argument. If you somehow think Mike McCarthy should stay, like please, we would love to.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear how Diggs isn't the reason why he's getting torched somehow. I'd love to hear that it's something else or something going on like that. Maybe he can keep up his INT production. In your opinion, let's hear it. Though. I love to go back and forth with the people like that. Let's hear it. I know a lot of Cowboy fans are going to hear this. They're all looking for videos. They're all going to see videos like this and talk about it because they're angry right now, and we understand your frustration. Let's hear how you're feeling in the comment section. Let's hear it. Let's agree or disagree. We'd love to talk with you back and forth.
Yep, no doubt. We will read your comment out. We'll say your name and everything like that. But let's move on to a game that happened Saturday night that a lot of people are already forgetting about because of everything else that has happened. And that's the Patriots-Bills game. Look, that was the best performance that they could have possibly played Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. It was fantastic. It was if Josh Allen plays like that, Sean, the Bills are winning the Super Bowl. If Josh Allen continues to play like that, the Bills are winning the Super Bowl. The problem is he's been a little inconsistent. My point on this is this is going to get another fan base riled up. The Patriots, the Bill Belichick's done winning titles in New England. Listen, I don't say that with any pride, but watching that game, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was that Bill Belichick's inability without Tom Brady is now catching up to him. And what I mean by that is this. When they used to play teams that could go full throttle on offense, they had Brady that could go toe-to-toe. Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. They had the Falcons in the Super Bowl. They had guys that could go toe-to-toe because they had Brady. Mac Jones, I'm high on. I'm very high on Mac Jones. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. I'm not one of these guys that thinks he's going to be Brady, though. And with the way that Bill Belichick has been really bad at drafting skill position players and bringing in skill position players through free agency, it showed to me on Saturday that Bill Belichick finally has a kryptonite, and it's Josh Allen. Josh Allen, in the last 5 games that he's played Bill Belichick, he has thrown for 1,500 yards, for 14 touchdowns. He's ran for 300 yards and 2 more, and he's only thrown 1 interception in the last 5 games. And he only lost 1 of those games, and it was because it was an absolute snowstorm. Bill Belichick has a kryptonite now, and it's Josh Allen. And he has no idea how to stop Josh Allen. So the reason why I bring up the offense is because the only way Belichick is going to be able to start beating Buffalo and winning the AFC East again is if he can go toe-to-toe on offense. And they're not going to be able to do that. And because of that, the Patriots' reign with Bill Belichick of winning titles is over. We have officially found a way that Bill Belichick can't out-scheme a way to win a game. I was sitting at watching that game shocked, bro. And what came to me is, this isn't new. This is what Josh Allen continues to do to this team as long as the weather isn't absurd and they're in a snowstorm. What do you think about that?
So, completely agree with a caveat that I honestly think if he wants to win championships, he's going to have to find a different quarterback, which I know sounds absurd.
If he trades for like Deshaun Watson, then then that's a different ball game we're talking about. If he can go get Deshaun Watson, because I think that's a QB that could go toe to toe with Allen, then that's different. So I agree with that. Yeah.
So where we're getting like our wires crossed a little bit is I'm not as high on Mac as you are.
Yeah.
And that's just the thing.
Yeah.
I think he's like bargain bin Kirk Cousins, baby. Like I think he's going to get exposed a little bit next year.
You think he's worse than Kirk Cousins?
I think he's going to be right there at him, if not a little worse.
Okay.
I think that's his ceiling. Let's put it that way. I think that he came in and he did a very Gardner Minshew-esque job in his first year, how Minshew did for the Jags that first year.
Yeah.
Where he processes quickly, he gets the ball out to where it's supposed to go. He's almost like a coach on the field. But that can only get you so far in the league, man. And I mean, the thing that people forget about with Kirk's throwing to a lot of all-star receivers, and the Patriots don't do a good job of doing that. So, I mean, barring them getting a true dominant number one, I don't see Mac being able to elevate like that. And yeah, Josh McDaniels is going to help him. There's only so much Josh can do until people start scheming him up. Because the last 6 to 7 games of the year, and I know he's a rookie. Everyone is already going to start with that. He's a rookie. The last 6 to 7 games, he looked bad. Really. Yeah. A lot of games, he looked bad.
I agree.
I think it's going to be a rough year, too, for him. Just because that's what happens when you have a limited quarterback. They really don't throw down the field. And once you don't throw down the field, defenses start to cheat up on you. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to cheat on that run game, and they're going to cheat on these short throws. And it's just not going to be there as much. It's going to cause a lot more mistakes. So I think, number one, the Patriots either need to assess what they're doing at quarterback, maybe get a veteran in, or number two, they've got to get some dynamite, dominant A1 playmakers, which Belichick has proven he's not good at doing.
Not good at that.
So that's where I think we're on the same page, but I think it's in different ways. That's the two things. And when it comes to Josh Allen being his kryptonite, you're right. He never had to deal with nothing like this before. Because the only other quarterback that's ever given him issues like this was Russell Wilson, and he never has to play Russell Wilson all that often because of how the NFC is. Yeah. And everybody's like, well, he beat him in the Super Bowl. That was that one play with Malcolm Butler that he had prepared. Russell had them in position to beat him. That was also a young Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Here's the thing that Josh Allen does that's different. That's kind of Russell-esque that gives Belichick's defensive problems. He's so good as a runner that Belichick, whenever like a Deshaun plays you, they'll put a spy on him. And they'll man up Hopkins on the outside. And it's like one of the few times Hopkins ever has issues because Belichick's corners are always ready to play. The thing is, you can't even if you man up Diggs on the outside and you spy Josh Allen, the minute Josh Allen goes to run and that spy moves, Josh Allen's throwing the ball 80 mile an hour back the other way of the field, across the field, 40 yards to a streaking receiver, and no one can prepare for that. Because only him and Mahomes can really do that in the league. And you can almost sit back a little more on Mahomes because you're not scared he's going to run for 20 on you, whereas Allen might run for 20 and truck you. That's the difference between that. That's why Belichick has so much issues with him. And it's crazy to watch. But you're right. They're not going to have anybody that's going to be able to outscore him, especially not with Mac at quarterback. And they're not going to be able to dominant run game him either because Allen's just going to score too fast. So you're right about that. The division is Buffalo's from here on, and I know that's hard for Patriot fans to hear, especially the way Belichick's been dominant all this time. It's going to be something to watch going forward, what he does at quarterback, what he does at skill position to try to increase that. Because I think a lot of people think Mac Jones is just going to become this Matt Ryan type player. And even Matt Ryan had Julio on the outside, man. And honestly, I find that disrespectful to Ryan because I just don't think Mac Jones is going to be that guy.
So I disagree with. I do think I am higher on Mac Jones. Obviously, I know that. What worries me is the skill position part. Belichick has given me no proof that he can give Mac Jones a Julio Jones. I do think this is a prediction. I do think they will get Ridley this year. I do think they'll go after Ridley. I do think they'll get them. I think that they might be able to be willing to give more because they need. And I think Bill Belichick understands he's not that great at drafting wide receivers. So he might be willing to offer us a little bit more than other teams for Ridley. So I think that, but this is my thing here. Bill Belichick's a smart man, bro. He's a very smart man. He's seeing what we're talking about. He's seeing what Josh Allen is doing. He's seeing that he has Mac Jones, a young quarterback. What if Bill Belichick's looking around and saying, why not go somewhere else? I know this is a different conversation. We don't want to get too into this right now, but he's smart, bro. Way back in the day, he could have had that Jets head coaching job when Parcells retired and all that. He said, no, I don't want to take this. I want to go to New England because he liked what was going on in New England. I'm just saying, man, he's never had to deal with someone like Josh Allen, like you just said. Dude, I kid you, like you just said with your, it's mind-blowing. I was sitting there watching this game, genuinely shocked because I've never seen a Bill Belichick defense perform the way they did. And then I started to think, oh, wait, this happened earlier in the season too. Oh, wait, this happened last year too. Like, he has nothing for Josh Allen. And that makes me wonder if maybe he says, maybe I should get on out of here and go coach somewhere else to finish my career. Just a thought. Like, we got a lot of other games to break down, but it's not crazy.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I just don't know if there's an opening right now that would appeal to him.
It might not be right now. Yeah.
That's the only thing. I mean, next year though, you could imagine if one of these with like a franchise quarterback comes open. I don't want to say Arizona because I don't think he'd like Kyler that much. So that's the one thing about Arizona. But I don't know if one of those would come open, maybe if it is like a Seattle with Pete Carroll, maybe if they do move on after not this year, but next year and keep Russell.
That would be
the other thing I'd watch for is Russell might be on the move. And even though Belichick's not on his list, even though the Patriots aren't really on his list, it would never shock me to see Belichick make a great move like that.
I think Russell would want to go there. I think Russell would open that up.
Yeah, and I know we're getting into what we're going to talk about all offseason, but like that's something that I would definitely watch for because you're right. Belichick's too smart to let this keep happening to him and then just stay in the league. I know he probably wants to build a little something for his sons and he still loves McDaniels and maybe he's going to take over for him one day. But it wouldn't shock me if I know everyone, I'm telling you, all these Patriot fans love Mac Jones. It would not shock me one bit if Belichick don't have some plan B to go around with that. And that would not be a big shock to me whatsoever if Russell Wilson was to be traded for, because I think he might be on the move this offseason. No one's really talking about that yet.
I think Deshaun's more likely because of the Houston
Casario.
Yeah, I think and I think Houston would love to have Mac.
The problem with that is I don't know if Deshaun's going to waive his no trade to New England. That's my one issue with that.
I feel like Deshaun would be an idiot not to do that. But I get what you're saying.
Deshaun, that's like his thing. Like that's the whole reason why he wanted out of Houston to start with, is he's just sick of these Patriot dudes. Like
I know. Well, and there was the owner. There was a lot of shit with it.
Yeah, I mean it's the owner, and then Easterby's a Patriots guy. So I mean it's the owner and Easterby. Really, I mean if we're being real, that's what it is. So.
And real quick, one thing on his son. I know he loves his son, but bro, he's got it. I mean, his son's not helping him out. Like,
he'd bring his son with him, probably.
Yeah, he would for sure. All right, but let's move on to this. I want to talk about the Rams game here. You said it to start the show. You were spot on. We've talked about this over and over and over. Matthew Stafford had the most pressure on him. Dak had the second most. Dak wasn't able to come through. Stafford was. Credit to Sean McVay. Sean McVay came up with a game plan where Stafford really didn't even have to do much, bro. I mean, really, they eased him into this game. They didn't put any pressure on him. They eased him in. They got first of all, Akers looked phenomenal. I've
never seen some shit like that in my life. Dude, off an Achilles.
I mean, that was like some Adrian Peterson stuff, like coming off of a ACL, but he's coming off of Achilles, which is like even worse. Like he looked awesome. And if he keeps playing, this is my point. If he keeps playing like that, if the pass rush play, Von Miller looked like Super Bowl MVP Von Miller. Like they looked so good last night. This Rams team reminds me of the Bucs team last year. And this is why. You have a team that's already really good. Right? The Bucs, they go out and get Brady. Then they get AB. Then they get Gronk. Then midseason, they get Fournette. You know, they get all these players to come in. The Rams, they go out and get Stafford. Then, they already have Kupp. They go out and get Odell. They go out and get Von Miller. They go out and get Sony Michel. Now Akers is back. If this pass rush with Donald and Von Miller can get to the quarterback, there's a couple of things that each team, to win a championship, you have to have. It's a really good defense, a good pass rush, a good run game, and a good quarterback. It used to be where you could win one if you have. Nowadays, you got to have a good quarterback. And then the last thing is you got to have some luck. Anybody that disagrees that you don't have to have luck, you're just not looking deep enough into it. It doesn't have to be insane luck. Maybe it's just a good bounce of the ball. Maybe it's just the fact that you get a good path to the Super Bowl. And that's what the Rams got here, bro. The Rams got the best possible path that they could get. They started out with the team in Arizona that Sean McVay destroys. He's only lost one time. He's 8-1 against them. That one time was this year. He destroys Kliff Kingsbury and he destroys Arizona. That was number one. That was huge for them because they were able to ease in Stafford and get the massive weight off his back. Now he has a playoff win. He finally has a playoff win. It was huge. Next, they get Tampa Bay, not Green Bay. Why is that big? Tampa Bay's getting back Fournette. It's going to be his first game in a long, long time. Tristan Wirfs is banged up. Jensen got banged up. Like the offensive line that's so good, in my opinion, the best in the league, is now finally banged up and showing some holes. And while that Philadelphia game, bro, it was a beatdown, they got to Tom Brady. They sacked him like 5 times in that game. If that pass rush was able to get to Brady, this Rams pass rush will definitely be able to get to Brady. So the fact that they were able to get Tampa Bay in the second round and not Green Bay is a part of the path. Now, I don't know if they would be able to beat Green Bay. That's the one issue. But the way things are looking here, and I said last week, Sean, and everyone that listened, I said, if the Rams beat the Cardinals, the Rams are going to the NFC title game. That's what we saw, and I think the Rams going to Tampa. We'll get more into this later in the week. What are your thoughts on this could be turning out to be the last year's Bucs team?
Yeah, the way you laid that out was actually perfect, and it's almost like exactly to a T, because if they'd had Robert Woods, it would have been even more believable, but Van Jefferson's there. Yeah. So you almost basically take the 2 great receivers if you take Kupp and Jefferson, and then you just add Odell, add AB. It's kind of like a thing. Akers came in, and he's running like Fournette did last year. So you're exactly right. It's the exact same setup, and you're right. They caught the biggest breaks possible, which is what you need. They got healthy outside of Woods being out. Akers came back.
Yep.
They caught the Cardinals in the first round, who I did pick the Cardinals to win. So I was a little bit shocked, especially with how bad they played.
They played terrible.
It was a very bad game for Kyler, but I did underestimate them being in the playoffs for the first time.
Yeah.
And number one, I underestimated how hard the Rams have owned them in the past.
Yeah.
Which they do. And there's a psychological thing about it. It just happens to teams, especially then with the tightness and pressure of the playoffs.
Yep.
But you're right.
Look at what your team did to the Colts. Like those are things that happen.
But them pulling the Bucs in the second round, you're exactly right. That right there, completely just perfect break for them. Easy. Because Wirfs and Jensen both hurt, like you said. So you got Vaughn coming off one end, and that's where Donald plays up the middle.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, with Godwin and AB gone, Ramsey can just follow Evans.
Yep.
So that's perfect setup right there. Then you can bracket Gronk, and they're already good against the run. The other thing that you got to talk about is this. While Stafford has that weight lifted off for the playoff win, had he have gone to Green Bay next week, there'd still be some people out there saying, yeah, but he's never really beat Green Bay consistently. He played them twice a year. Yeah, that's one playoff game, but McVay owns the Cardinals. He has no pressure this week. He's playing Brady. He's playing the GOAT. There's zero pressure. If he loses, who's going to blame him? It's Brady. You're going against him.
Yeah.
So he caught the perfect break, because now he's going to be able to go in there with absolutely zero pressure. No one's going to get upset at him for losing to Tom Brady.
No.
That's just how it is. If it was the other way around, then yeah. And then, to be honest, if he does go in and play the Packers in the last one, there's no pressure then too, because you made the championship game. We'll get into that in the later parts of the week. I do think the Packers just have something this year, like it's got to be their year. But man, the Rams did catch such a good break. If you're picking them to win the Super Bowl, if you're picking them to go on, and they absolutely dominated the Cardinals. I've got to get on the Kliff a little bit here.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, because you were on this, so you've been on this, so you should hit that.
So I actually like Kliff, but Kliff doesn't really step up all that much, man. He's not really a step up coach.
Yeah.
And I was I haven't really seen any reports about them confirming whether he's back or
They
not.
haven't.
So I'm wondering if Bidwell's kind of sitting there thinking this over because I think Bidwell loves Kime, but God, you can't let Kime hire a fifth
No,
coach.
no.
I mean, and I don't think Bidwell's going to want to extend him after that, man. I really don't see Bidwell doing it. He would have extended him by now.
Yeah.
So either you're letting Kliff play on this last year, which I mean, it's the NFL, you can do that, or you're getting rid of him and going out there. But I don't know who you're going to get. I know Leftwich is out there, and he's kind of linked to the Jags or the Bears, and he was there before, so maybe you'd want him for Kyler. Ah, man, it's just tough. Do you think Kliff is back? Because I think it's a little weird they haven't just came out and supported him.
I think it's very weird. I think it's very, very weird. It's starting to make me feel like he's not going to be back, but I think it's a mistake, bro. Look, Kliff, you're right. Kliff let Kyler down. Kyler played terrible, but bro, I don't know. Why did Kyler not run? Why, dude? I was sitting there watching this game, and he had no time. They were locking down the receivers. He had no time to let the receivers run their route. Take off with the ball, bro. Like, I don't know why, and I don't know if it was Kliff that was, I don't know, but that was weird. It was a bad game plan. It was a very bad game plan. But I think it would be a disaster to fire Kliff. One, I don't think there's anyone else out there that's better. Maybe Leftwich. I think Leftwich would be. And two, he has gotten better every single year. Like, he really has. Next year now, like, he's got to win a playoff game. It was get to the playoffs. Now next year's win a playoff game. And three, like you've been on this and you're right, Kime's a really good GM. And I wouldn't want to fire Kime, but you would have to. So just for that fact alone, I would keep him. Like, I think it'd be dumb, but I'm starting to feel like you're saying he might be out, dude, because it's weird.
Yeah, it's strange. Like, I don't know if maybe Bidwell's just like going to talk to him and be like, "Look, we got to be better in the playoffs next year. Like,
Yeah.
you've got to make it and be better." I do think that another overarching point I had on this: anybody that's judging rookie quarterbacks or second year quarterbacks without alpha number one receivers needs to just stop at this point.
Yes.
Because I mean, honestly, I don't think Josh Allen plays as well without Diggs, and he's been in the league for longer. But Kyler is completely different without Hop out there.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you have these younger quarterbacks. Until they get that fourth, fifth year in the league, where they just know where to go with the ball so well, and they're so adept at reading defenses and so good at having the accuracy and mechanics down, where they're not trying to process everything, they're going to need that number one receiver to go to in clutch situations. Yeah. And Kyler not having him out there, like I said, I told you before, Ramsey was just going to wreak havoc because he's not going to have to cover Hop all game. He's just going to cover these other receivers. It really did mess with Kyler, I believe, fully. And that's one thing going forward. If you draft a rookie quarterback or you have a second-year quarterback, this is for the Zach Wilsons, the Justin Fields, the Trevor Lawrences out there. Until you get them a number one receiver, you're not properly surrounding them with what they need
at all,
because they need it for these first 3 years in the league. And if you just look at it, Kyler is two completely different quarterbacks with Hop out there. Just thought I needed to make that point because, Lord, it's a completely different game. That's why he's looked so bad the rest of the season, I believe. Everyone keeps saying it's because he's hurt. I honestly think it's because he's missing Hop.
Yeah. No, you're spot on, bro. It's so true. And that's why, even though Herbert is awesome and some of the throws he makes, but he also has Mike Williams making insane catches and Keenan Allen making insane catches. Like, Burrow's got the same thing. He's got Jamar and all these guys. Let's transition to Burrow real quick and wrap it up on this because that's a game we haven't talked about here. Look, Russell Wilson said it on the Manning cast last night. He said there's something going on in Cincinnati. They asked him to pick the game. He picked Cincinnati because he said there's something going on with Cincinnati. He said it just feels like Burrow is doing something special. Do you, I mean, I'm not telling you to make your pick because we're going to get into this, but what were your thoughts on that game?
Well, I mean, you heard last week's show. I have Cincinnati beating the Titans. So
that's true. Yeah, we already made the picks.
Yeah. So I like the pick, to be honest. I know the Raiders started to claw back in. I'm hoping Hendrickson can get back at least. That's one thing that worries me because that's really their only pass rusher. And when I talked about them being like another offseason away from winning the Super Bowl, that's the type of stuff I mean. They need a secondary pass rusher to go with Hendrickson. They need extra corner out there. But on offense, man, Burrow is cooking. And not only is Burrow cooking, Chase is cooking people. And they didn't even need Higgins that game. That's how good they are on the skill positions. Higgins didn't even have to show up hardly. Chase was just burning people on the outside, man. I've never seen it. I want to say never, but I mean, because Justin Jefferson was solid. But at the same time, the way Chase goes up and makes plays down the field, it's special to watch. It's hard to compare because he's out in the playoffs doing it now. He had 116. He had 3 rushes for about 25. He's just dynamic with the ball in his hands. It's crazy to see a pick just hit that quickly. Between him and Burrow, man, they got a connection between the two of them. They're going to be a problem for the next 10, 12 years in Cincinnati as long as everything stays right. You just got to hope they protect Burrow. They do. They have something going on. It's a little 2017 Jags-esque, only they're going to be able to sustain it longer, where a lot of breaks fell their way. A lot of balls bounced their way. And like the defense was so outrageous with that team that they were able to overcome it. Then they had a close game against Buffalo, the 2017 Jags did, and then they came and blew out the Steelers in the second round. I could see the Bengals coming in and just surprising everyone and putting a hurting on the Titans. That's kind of what I'm kind of leaning towards happening. It wouldn't shock me one bit. The Titans secondary is so torchable. They are very torchable. It would not shock me if Burrow, Chase, and Higgins have a day.
Ooh.
That's one of the ones going forward that I want to watch. I can't wait to see that game next weekend.
I can't wait for all of I think every single one of these games, bro, could go either way. I seriously think every single game is going to be so good. And we're going to break it all down right here on the Money Down Pod later this week. You're going to want to tune into that. Is there anything else you want to hit on before we head on out?
No, I've got to give Mahomes props, man. Like, I know we didn't discuss that one that hard. I was roasting in the pre-show. If y'all heard the last show, I said that was an asleep by halftime game because
I called it. Hey, it looked like it was going to be close, and then with like 2 minutes left, he just blew it open in the second quarter.
Yes, I had that one called for a while, but if you stayed up and watched Mahomes just work magic in the second half, I mean, Andy had Kelsey throwing touchdowns. It was crazy to watch. I just had to give props to those two because, I mean, Chiefs fans, if you're watching this, we all knew you were going to make it through to the second round, so that's why you're not having Yeah, but I mean, it's still got to give those dudes props, man. That matchup with Allen, we'll talk about later in the week. That's going to be a heavy hitting one, but props to them and congrats to Big Ben's career, man. Big Ben had a career. He's a great quarterback. He was in the same freaking conference as Brady and Manning and still won 2. Got to give him props there. It's sad to see him go, but you'd hate to see him out there looking like a shell of himself, how he was this last year. But hey, yeah, props to Big Ben for his career, and obviously props to Mahomes for that playoff win.
He's incredible, and really, man, he's the last quarterback that we're gonna see like him. Like Josh Allen has some type of vibes of him, but it's completely different because Big Ben would just stand in that pocket. People would be on his back, bro, and he would still stand up and throw the ball somehow. Like that, Big Ben in his prime was just it was unseen, and he's incredible. He's a Hall of Famer in my mind for sure. Yeah, but we'll dive into the games later this week. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to talk more about these games. 8 teams left, set up 4-4 of each conference, and it's going to be one hell of a weekend upcoming. So thank you everyone for tuning in to the Money Down Pod. Hope you enjoyed it. Listen, if we upset you and your fan base, let us know your thoughts. Come back with arguments of why we are wrong. We want to hear it, Cowboys fans. We want to hear it. This is the Money Down Pod. That is Sean White. I'm Kehlani Zombie. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, at Money Down Pod, and go and give us a 5-star review on any podcast platform. It really means the world to us. So please do that and come back later this week as we will start our draft show tomorrow, right?
Yep.
We're doing our first draft show tomorrow, which, again, you're not going to find many shows out there that's already talking about the draft. We're going to start easy into it and then really get deeper as we go. And then on Thursday, which will come out Friday, we will do our preview of this upcoming weekend. So stay tuned for all of that. This is the Money Down Pod. That's Sean White. This is Kehlani Zombie.